At CES 2026, something huge happened. We didn't just see a smarter car, we saw what might be the first thinking car. For years, it felt like the whole self-driving revolution was kind of stalled, right? Well, a major breakthrough just kicked it back into high gear. So what on earth just changed?
I mean, it's the question we've all been asking, isn't it? We were promised this future of autonomous everything, but here we are, still stuck in traffic, driving our own cars. So what gives? Why did this incredible promise just hit a brick wall?
Well, it all comes down to this one big idea, the long-tail problem. See, teaching an AI to handle a normal commute, that's the easy part. The hard part is all the weird, unpredictable stuff. The things that happen so rarely you could never program a rule for every single one. An AI knows what a person is, sure, but a person in a gorilla suit crossing the street? That's the long tail. And that almost infinite list of weirdness is exactly what kept self-driving cars stuck in park.
So how do you solve a problem that's basically infinite? You can't just write more rules. You need a system that can actually reason its way through something new. And that brings us to the very first pillar of this revolution, giving the car a real brain.
This is where NVIDIA's Alpamayo model comes in. It's built on a totally new architecture called Vision Language Action, or VLA. Now, instead of just seeing a cyclist and drawing a little box around it, Alpamayo builds a story. It actually connects what it sees with language to understand context and what might happen next. It's the difference between just knowing what an object is and understanding what it's doing, and more importantly, what it might do.
And you can really see the difference here. The old way was clunky and fragile. It was like a bunch of separate systems bolted together. If one part got confused, the whole thing could just break down. But Alpamayo is what's called end-to-end. It reasons its way through messy situations, adapting its understanding of the world instead of just freezing up. And here's the secret sauce, something called chain of thought processing. You can literally think of it as the car's own internal monologue. Before it makes a move, it actually talks itself through the problem, connecting the dots to come up with a logical plan. It's not just reacting anymore, it's genuinely thinking. Okay, let's see how this plays out in the real world. Imagine this, a traffic light is out and there's a cop directing traffic. An older system would be totally confused. It would just see a broken signal and stop. But Alpamayo reasons it out step by step. 1. The traffic light's dark. 2. Okay, so normal rules don't apply. That person in the intersection, probably law enforcement. 3. They're waving me forward. 4. Right, their instructions are more important than the broken light. 5. Action, go. That is a level of thinking we have just never, ever seen in a car. But here's the catch. A thinking brain is an incredibly power-hungry beast. Running that kind of complex logic in milliseconds takes a massive amount of computational muscle. So the question becomes, how do you cram a supercomputer into a car without the whole thing, melting?
While engineers were slammed with a huge problem called the dark silicon paradox. It's pretty simple, really. The more transistors you pack onto a chip to make it faster, the more heat it generates in that tiny space. You eventually hit a hard physical limit where you can't even turn on all the parts of the chip at the same time without it literally cooking itself.
And the solution to that paradox is NVIDIA's Rubin platform. It's not just a faster chip, it's a completely new class of hardware. It was designed from the ground up for one mission, to wring every last drop of useful work out of every single watt of electricity.
And to give you a sense of the sheer scale we're talking about, a single Rubin GPU has 336 billion transistors. That is just a staggering, mind-boggling number. The whole point of the Rubin platform is to be able to light up as much of that silicon as the laws of physics will allow, squeezing out an absolutely unheard-of amount of performance.
Which brings us to the most important point, efficiency. What you're seeing here is the inference cost. That's just a fancy engineering term for the price of every single thought the car has. The Rubin platform slashes that cost by 10 times compared to the last generation. That's not a small jump, it's a monumental leap that finally makes it possible, both financially and physically, to put a brain like Alpamayo on the road. So we've got the brain and we've got the muscle. But that supercomputer on wheels needs a revolutionary way to get its juice. And that brings us to the third and final piece of the puzzle, the fuel.
So here's the challenge. More computing power demands way more energy. But with traditional lithium-ion batteries, you're forced into a really dangerous trade-off. If you want more power, you need more flammable liquid electrolyte, which adds weight and, more importantly, seriously increases the risk of fire.
But a company called ProLogium completely changed the game with their solid-state batteries. Their secret weapon is something they call an active safety mechanism, or ASM. Think of it as a chemical kill switch that's literally built into the battery's core. If something goes catastrophically wrong, it doesn't just try to contain the damage. It stops the dangerous chemical reaction dead in its tracks before a fire can even begin.
I mean, the difference is just night and day. ProLogium's battery gets rid of that flammable liquid and replaces it with a stable, non-flammable solid. It almost doubles the energy density, so you get way more power in a smaller, lighter package. And the really critical part is that the risk of that scary thermal runaway is basically eliminated at a chemical level.
Oh, and get this. It can charge up to 80% in just 4 to 6 minutes. For something like a fleet of autonomous robotaxis, that kind of speed is an absolute game changer. It means way less downtime and way more time on the road actually working.
So, there we have it. The 3 pieces of the puzzle. A brain that can reason, the muscle to power it, and the fuel to power it safely. And when you finally bring all 3 of those things together, well, that's when you get the real payoff.
It's truly a perfect storm of innovation. You have Alpamayo's reasoning providing the intelligence, you have Rubin's hardware providing the insanely efficient power to make it all run, and you have ProLogium's battery providing the safe, dense energy to fuel the entire system. Any one of these would be a breakthrough on its own, but together they create something that's totally new.
And that something new isn't some science fiction concept car. This entire stack, the brain, the muscle, and the fuel, is debuting in a real production vehicle, the 2026 Mercedes-Benz CLA.
NVIDIA's CEO Jensen Huang, he put it perfectly. He called this the ChatGPT moment for autonomous vehicles. And it's the best analogy, really. Just like ChatGPT made AI something you could talk to, this technology makes cars something that can think. It's a fundamental leap in what the machine is capable of. And that brings us right back to where we started. This new kind of AI, one that reasons from the ground up, can finally handle that long tail of weirdness. It doesn't need to have seen a horse on the highway 1,000 times before. It can see it once, understand the situation, and figure out what to do. For the very first time, the problem of self-driving isn't an infinite monster anymore. It's solvable.
So let's be clear. This is not just a fancier cruise control. It's a complete paradigm shift. We are finally moving away from features that just assist the driver and moving toward a true autonomous agent, a system that can actually perceive, reason, and act all on its own in the messy, chaotic real world.
This technological trio has officially rebooted the self-driving revolution. The first thinking car is here. And that leaves us with one final, pretty deep question to think about. If your car can truly reason for itself, who or what is really in control?